We in this country, in this generation, are by destiny rather than choice, the watchmen on the walls of world freedom. We ask, therefore, that we may be worthy of our power and responsibility, that we may exercise our strength with wisdom and restraint, and that we may achieve in our time and for all time the ancient vision of peace on earth, goodwill towards men. That must always be our goal, and the righteousness of our cause must always underlie our strength. For as was written long ago, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman awaketh but in vain.
Okay, guys, we're here with Judy Julin, originator of frequency-based education, which is a very cool thing. Judy, tell us a little bit about yourself. We met you on the Truth Tour. You were talking about all this stuff, and I don't think at the time a lot of people really understood kind of what you were talking about. And I think now we're finally at a point where it's going to make a huge difference in people's lives. So tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started doing what you're doing.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Doug White. It's thrilling to be here. I loved being on the Truth Tour and meeting you and Gina. It was, I think, a couple of years ago, or no, the beginning of last year. And we traveled to I traveled to 9 cities in 5 days. You traveled many more cities and many more days, and you guys were so busy. And that's the thing about what's going on in our world now. There's so much for people to talk about, and the Truth Tour and all that Lewis is doing is getting the word out there on really things that people are thirsty for. And when eventually, and we're crossing our fingers, and we know it because this is all already happened. And when the dust finally settles with the geopolitical realm and disclosure, what's next? And people are going to want to know what's next. And I'm happy to wait. I think we're very close for it. I've been waiting since the late 80s for getting this out there. And perhaps I was ahead of my time. I follow my inclinations and my intuitive nudgings. And quite honestly, that's a good foundational element of what frequency-based education is. It's kind of a larger the larger umbrella is a quantum education system. So it's bringing in all different types of ways of thinking. My years of being in the educational realm has been really since the late 80s. I started out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I had a business for children called Kids at Heart, and it was based on fitness, nutrition, manners, and self-esteem. And people said, what do you mean nutrition and self-esteem? People back then, I mean, I'm kind of used to people not really kind of getting it, and maybe it's a little bit before its time, but that's okay. There's a reason it's within me. There's a reason I've traveled the world researching all types of educational platforms and
it's interesting because you're not taught any of that in school.
No. Yeah. And I never understood why. It was, people said, well, we're interested in education. I kept saying, well, this is education. This is life skills. This is character development. This is critical thinking. And also in a playful, fun way. This is about aligning with nature. This is about realizing the power of our thoughts, and not just the power of our thoughts, but the power of behind the thoughts, the intentionality, which is another part of the education system for kids. So I guess I'm honored and feel blessed to have been given these thoughts and these ideas and the time to grow into the concept of it, and to be able to be okay with people that might not get it yet. Well, the good news is people are getting it now. They're realizing the power of our hearts and minds, and I like to call them superpowers, but quite frankly, they're innate powers of we as human beings that we're going to now learn more and more about what we are, what our children are, especially coming in. So it's something that I've been doing for a number of years, and I'm simply glad that you're interested in hearing more about it.
Oh, wow, this is going to be so awesome. You know, you think about what you just said. Nothing comes into existence without being thought about first. You can't do anything unless you think about it, right? So,
Absolutely. And you know, here you from your background in music and technology and video and sound, you understand that probably, you know, more than maybe the average Joe, because it's part of who you are. And you
yeah,
see the profound effect that music has. And when we talk about frequencies and hertz levels that we see, and of course, you're
feel
probably
it.
familiar with Dr. Emoto's work,
Oh, yeah,
the Japanese researcher who did the research on water, frozen water molecules, and how the power of our thoughts can actually impact the world around us. And, you know,
right.
you just think of yourself, if you growing up, perhaps your parents or your grandparents, you know what that's like, going into your grandmother's kitchen, the smell of cookies baking, her love for you, that kind of, you can feel it as a child, of course, you feel it. And then you can also get that feeling of when you walk into a room when there's been an argument.
Little time
So
travel.
yeah, yeah. And it's about the frequencies in our midst. I'm also a feng shui certified feng shui consultant. So I understand feng shui is all about the energies that are around you in a room, in a society, in a city, and it's about how you can actually impact the frequencies by changing your room. Just like within our bodies, we can change the frequency by not just our words and not just our thoughts, but the intentionality behind that. And
Yeah,
that's what we teach teachers and caregivers and parents. I developed what's called the Resonant Learning Approach, RLA. And it's all about, you know, you can have the greatest curriculum, you can have the greatest books, you can have the most wonderful schoolroom for children. Yet, if we have teachers that are wounded and not yet tending to their inner child, perhaps woundedness, then they're going to be giving this evolved curriculum through a lens that is not clear and allow it to come through. So we need to have our teachers, parents, caregivers, nannies, aunts and uncles, babysitters, all understand that in the midst of children, we need to keep our frequency as high as it can be, because the kids are already there.
yeah.
You know,
They're
I
born
talk about,
there. They're
yes,
born there. You
absolutely.
can't be closer than God than that.
No, and you know, they're being born today, Doug. I don't know. I think I might have mentioned to you the Indigo
Yep,
Evolution movie
yep.
that I was in back in 2006. These children are being born today, from then, now, that are quite wise. And that's why I kind of like to say the child as teacher mindset. Now, it's not to let the schoolroom run wild. We do have boundaries and understandings, and we put together ways that we can deal with one another in a way that serves the child, serves the teacher, serves the
Right.
rest of the students. So
Well,
it's really a way of being in the world.
yeah,
Frequency-based education. It's all about the frequency. Now, on top of that, we have curriculum. Nature-based curriculum. We have character studies. Let's teach our kids the true history. Now that we're going to be learning about what the real truth is behind our world, behind what we've been living in, let's now learn about the Constitution, learn about being kind and loving to one another, learn about rules and regulations, and being, you know, with your actions, that you have an action, and then you have to be responsible for your actions. But
right.
nature plays a big part in the future. We're planning to have a farm school with because you can learn everything in nature. You can learn math,
Right.
science, physics. It's all around us. So we're very
And
excited about what the future holds.
the Fibonacci code, it's all right there. It's
Absolutely. And if you
everything.
look,
Everything's
yes,
in
you look at
balance.
seashells, you look at sunflowers, that same spiral, spiral dynamics, if you've ever studied any of that.
Yeah,
It
somatics
is
and
all
all that.
around us.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. And you know, I always wondered in school, I was not your straight A student, that's for sure. I was kind of marched to my own beat, but I always wondered why you never learned something you wanted to learn. You were always forced to just learn garbage that was really pretty much useless in real life. We didn't even learn how to balance a checkbook. Now, how do you foster creativity and people thinking with garbage that they're not even going to use?
See,
So,
at that young age, you understood. And I have a neighbor. I used to produce a little internet show called the Judy and Julin Show with my then 8-year-old neighbor. And she was challenged at school. She didn't get good grades at all, but she's brilliant. And
yeah,
not perhaps by our standards, traditional standards in school. And I would continue to tell her mother, she's brilliant. And when she's with me, I can see her mind works. She loved to do Roblox and play online. And we had a great time together. It's meeting the child where they are. If you
yeah,
were to have been met where you were and what you liked, and here's the thing, Doug, you may have heard about project-based learning, which is a really great thing. But who usually comes up with the projects? It's the teachers, it's the school boards. Let's look to the children to see what they're interested in
right,
and connect them with their special mission and goals in life at an earlier age, kindergarten, first grade, and find out what they love, what their special gift is. And I believe we all have our special gifts to bring to the world. And
yeah.
then we build a curriculum based on what they love, what's important to them, and what their special gift is.
Yeah, you think about that. Look at all these people that have gone to college for something, and I always wondered about that too, because how do you know what you want to do? You only know so many things that are possible just from things you've been fed from the news or TV, whatever. How do you decide what you're going to do in the future when you don't even know the possibilities? So this will
Yes,
open that door to that. The possibilities are huge.
absolutely. And I think we're right on the cusp of inviting people to have new perspectives about what education is, what
Yeah,
parenting is, because as we know, parents are the first and the most enduring educator in a child's life. They come to
yeah,
me. We used to publish a magazine called Inspired Parenting, and we did a radio show, and parents would come to me and say, well, what do I do in this situation, in this situation? And quite honestly, there's no rule book. And I say to them, lead your best life. The greatest school for your child is for you to lead your best life, make mistakes, talk about it, because children be emotional, be
right.
yourself, live your best life, and your child is like a sponge, and they're learning from you every minute. They're learning in your frustrations, they're learning in your anger, and when we tend to our own garden, then we can invite our children to always keep their garden well pruned and nourished and fertilized through healthy means. So
Yeah. Now, isn't there like a certain age for children, like where they like their environment is the most impactful? It's like, from what I understand, it's up until they're like 7 years old or something like that. Once they
yes, and
hit that
that's
age, it kind of forms their reality of everything. So
absolutely,
it's almost like
absolutely
you
does.
can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can teach a new dog new tricks. So that's what we need to do.
Yeah. And there's studies that show actually, even in the womb, if you've ever heard of epigenetics
Oh
and
yeah,
Bruce Lipton and his studies, that children in the womb are affected by what's going on around them, whether it's a loving environment, whether it's a war-torn city, children are affected. So yes, up until the age of 5 and 7, they're hugely impacted. Yet even in the womb, and I believe parenting begins before conception, because before the child is brought in, even with the mother and the father together
hmm,
in sacred union, bringing a child into the world, their life path impacts what that child is going to be. I happen to believe that children choose their parents. And, let's say a parent, one of the life lessons a parent would want to learn, or perhaps would need to learn, would be anger management. Well,
uh-huh.
you can be assured that they're going to have a child that's going to push their anger buttons. And
My
I
mom and
think
dad got that.
You what?
My mom and dad got that.
See, I think that you're one of those special. I mean, we're all special, certainly, but there's a lot of people. For some reason, I was able to get through schooling and do well. Not a straight A student, but I guess my creativity and my imagination kind of got me to where I was meant to be or wanted to be. And I loved school, and I loved,
Yeah.
cheerleading, and I was a leader in many respects because I was captain of the cheerleaders, and I just was being myself. And I was born and continue to this day with a heart that is solid and true and very, very open. Not understood by a lot of people. Even people in my family didn't understand me. I'm a little different because I'm loving and because I can see things from a broader perspective. And perhaps that's why I do what I do, because,
Yeah.
for my life, it's been three buckets. It's been youth empowerment, inspired parenting, and educational reform. And that's what's brought me where I am today.
Yeah, it's awesome. The whole concept of it is awesome. I'm just like honored that you asked us to be a part of that. It's sort of something that I kind of felt coming a long time. Um, the whole music thing for me was just the catalyst for me, because I could listen to music and I could transport myself to that feeling of whatever that music was. So it really ties the whole frequency together for me. And one of the things I always told people, I've met so many people in my life, and usually you can tell the first time you meet them if you're going to bother even meeting them again. You can kind of feel it. You get this feeling from certain people, not everybody, but for the most part, anybody I've met and I had a bad feeling from the get-go, it's always turned out to be right. So it's that frequency thing that we're talking about here, that it's everywhere around us. There's nothing that's not frequency.
And we live in such a beautiful, adventuresome world, yet it's filled with a lot of distractions for
Yeah,
adults and children. So
yeah,
when we're distracted, we don't go within as much. We don't pay attention to those inclinations or nudgings or intuitive calling.
right.
So in the new educational system, while we want people to enjoy all the fruits that life can offer them, know that they are distractions, and know that if we were given the ability to go within and hear and understand more of what goes on within us, because we are superheroes, and more as the days pass, we're going to learn. I believe that these superpowers are going to show themselves even more. Not that they've not been there, but with the
Yeah,
distractions, and we know that they're distractions, that we can then look to ourselves and what we can accomplish. I think in the coming days, weeks, months, and years, Doug, I think there's going to be a lot more to say about these
yeah,
special kids in our midst, which will then teach we adults what's inherent within us, because we've been indoctrinated. And that's what we're about, is an indoctrination free school that won't have mandates, or that will be a sovereign place for children to be fully who they are.
right. That is so awesome. So imagine the world in 10 years after that. Look what we have now from being indoctrinated. That's why people are going along with this agenda that's going on, because all lies that they believed all their life have led them to think that that's the real reality, and it's not. It's, again, it's the frequency thing. The frequency of them pushing that into your brain has taken over the natural frequencies of what you're supposed to have in your life. It's all by design.
Yes, it is. And when I became more aware of what was being done to me in my life, the indoctrination levels and the deception, I was angry, and I thought, oh, that's why this new way of educating, this new learning platform that I'm proposing, was not wholeheartedly embraced. It's because they didn't want it. That's
Yeah,
because they wanted to keep the indoctrination going. And God bless the parents. They said, no, we want reading, writing, and arithmetic. Great. However, let's do reading and writing and arithmetic based on what your child's interests are, your child's special needs are, and let's make it fun. Let's infuse it with nature, and let's
yeah,
let it be a collaborative learning environment with the
yeah.
children leading the way.
Well, you think about that, right? And since we're talking about frequency here, you think about music. Well, if they would have, well, you hear a nursery rhyme. You can remember that nursery rhyme your whole life. I can remember the words of thousands of songs. I can't remember one class I took in school. But if they would have taken music and broke it down mathematically like it is, I mean, music is nothing more than math. If you can put it in that perspective, someone like me, I would have really gravitated towards that and got a benefit out of it instead of standing at a chalkboard writing numbers on a board. So that's the beauty of what you're doing, and it's awesome that this is coming into reality.
Thank you so much, Doug. I think back to my parents, and I didn't grow up in a perfect childhood, but my feeling is they did the best with what they knew. They were probably treated that way when they were growing up, and it's something to be. To me, I honor my parents, and here's a perfect example of what you just talked about. For a year, I was invited as an educationalist and a fundraiser at the Hunter School, which was based in Rumney, New Hampshire, up in the White Mountains. I'd never been there before. I'm a California girl now. I was there during their worst winter. Well, this school, Doug, was a residential school for children with extreme behavioral issues. They lived there from kindergarten through 8th grade. And I lived in a haunted house, not near, I was through, their worst winter, living in a haunted house with mice. But what I was happy about was I was with these kids. I loved them. And here's an example. There was one child who never spoke. He was nonverbal, and all he wanted to do was look at doorknobs. I know it sounds crazy, but he would take them apart. He would play with them. So what we did, we built a curriculum around doorknobs. And he was able to then start to speak and actually gave a presentation about doorknobs. You can learn math, you can learn history, what are they made of? You can learn all about minerals and what the components are. So you see, if you would have been given an opportunity to learn life skills and finance, business, whatever, through music and through your love of frequency, just think what could have happened.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. I mean, you think about that too. I mean, there's so many people on this planet. They don't all want to learn the same thing. They don't have a passion about the same thing. And they kind of push us into a box where everything's in that box, and anything outside of that box, it's all crazy and has nothing to do with anything, when the reality is that box is what has nothing to do with anything. It's everything around it that has something to do with something.
Absolutely. And you think of this goes way back to the 1860s in the Prussian army. They had this way of training their soldiers that kept them obedient and disciplined. And the industrialists from the United States saw this and said, hey, I'm going to use that same training program for my workers in the factories. And then we said, well, back in the industrial age, we want to ready our workers when they're very young. So we're going to start to train them in the schools. When you ring a bell, you do this. When you're told to do this, you stand in line. You don't ask questions. You face forward. So you see that it started way back in the Prussian army, and it came all the way through the industrial age system of education because they wanted people obedient and exactly. They wanted workers, and that's and that is no more. We are sovereign beings, brilliant beings that have so much to offer. And I believe each person has a special gift. So let's go there and build our schools around that in a beautiful environment, ultimately giving children a safe and sacred environment to simply be.
Be creative, be whatever you want. Absolutely. This is such an awesome program. I can't wait until this gets out in the masses, into the consciousness, and people start understanding it. That picture behind you, tell me a little bit about that picture.
This picture is meta art, META art, and it's designed, actually, my friend Leanne Heltzel, and that's LeeAnneHeltzel.com, LeanneHeltzel.com. I'll put the description in perhaps below. And she this art is all based on frequency. So she is an artist. She's a trained artist, yet she removes herself as the trained artist from this process and lets the creativity come through. I mean, it's so beautiful. This particular one is called Peace, and she has incredible artwork. But I thought, wouldn't it be perfect? It's based on frequency. We're talking about a new learning platform based on frequency. We're actually, Doug, talking about a new way of being. It's a lifestyle. It's not just school. It's not just work. It's not just home. I'm inviting us to blur the lines between all of those things and realize it's all the same thing. We're all in school every single day, and we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our communities, and we owe it to our creator to be the very best that we can be with what we've been given, which means, I think, and because when you talk about healthy frequencies, gratitude is the best frequency of all, and that starts your day so beautifully. So I do start the day with gratitude. And by the way, one more thing I want to say about this new educational system.
Yeah.
Back in the 2006, I started Cosmic Kids, which was a play and enrichment center for children ages 3 through 9. Fantastic. Launched in Hollywood. Great. Had a couple of locations. But what we did was we had educators, what we call them guides, actually, that would take the children through these stations of discovery based on art, creativity, imagination, quantum physics, Earth, and how to learn about the Earth and how we are impacted by and impact the Earth. And what we would do is we would ready the guides before they met with the children. They would listen to frequencies so that they would be, we invited them to be matched with a good high frequency, because that's where the kids are. We match, that's kind of what my frequency-based educations build on: frequency sensing, frequency matching, and frequency honoring. First, sense, slow down and make sure that your own frequency is of a high, refined, grateful state. Match, then match with the child. Find out where they are. Talk with them. Feel where they are and match them. And then honoring. Honor what the children's frequency is. Your frequency as you were young, frequency of being kind and loving the creative arts, loving technology, figuring things out for yourself. So that's kind of a foundation for frequency-based education.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get into that a little more, because we're going to do some more of these and kind of help people understand what it's about. But that whole frequency matching, I think that's something, once people understand kind of what you're talking about there, how to do that, because I don't even think most people know that's a thing. You know what I mean? So we'll end up getting into that and helping people understand that, and you know, hopefully help a lot of people feel better about everything. Because there's a lot to feel good about.
Yes. And that essence of gratitude is really a good foundational element. And goodness, we've got lots to talk about. I've spent my life traveling the world, researching, building educational platforms and curriculum, surrounding myself with like-minded educators and parents. And so there's lots to share, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be so awesome. I can't wait till the next one. Well, we'll try to keep them down to bits and pieces where it can be digested and thought about, and come back with the next step and get this thing rolling, because it's an amazing thing. So
thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Judy. We will talk to you soon.
Really great to be here. So what about the kids? What about the kids? What's going to happen to them? And over the last number of months, how many of you have heard, what about the kids? How are we going to save them? How are we going to help them? And that's really what gets to the deepest, darkest bottom of your heart. Isn't it true? Yeah. And what's the best way that we can help them? Are there any thoughts about that? How we can actually help them? I mean, of course, there's rescuing from the horrific situations that have been going on. And of course, there's love and compassion for those children of ours that are in our homes or in our schools or in our communities. But what about the kids? What's going to happen to them? And how can we help them? Does anybody have any thoughts about where to start or what to do? Or
I think homeschooling in the first place.
Homeschooling? Good idea.
Parenting would be grand.
parenting in general.
If we saw that come back, I mean, I'm just saying.
That old thing called
Yeah,
parenting.
that old thing.
Yeah,
It'd be great.
the family, God, in our homes, in our schools. And what if we broke down the four walls of the schools and it no longer became from 8 to 3 or whatever it is, in the Zoom for so long or in here for so long? What if school became all ages, all abilities, all the time, all learning, all together? So we no longer think of the school. I think it was Brad Olson who spoke on the Truth Tour a couple of days ago, and he was saying that let's look to our elders to teach our children about canning, about candle making. Let's learn how to do things for ourselves. Folk schools are coming back, artistry, learning about, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But before we get there, I want to share some good news. In addition to being founder and CEO of WOW Learning Lab, which stands for World of Wonder, we're going to talk about wonder and bring that back, just like parenting. It's a great thing. World of Wonder Learning Lab is a nonprofit that I founded, and our executive director, Deb Coyle's back there. She's here with us. And we put on classes in person. We've been all over the world, and we do online, teaching empowerment, critical thinking, elders. We bring in many, many providers that are all vetted. And the most important thing about our providers is, and we're going to learn about this later, their frequency. And it's called frequency-based education. I'm going to talk about that, but here's some good news. I also work for Children's Health Defense California chapter, founded by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is CEO, Chief Legal Counsel, and he's a wonderful man. He may be joining us on Sunday. We're going to try to, or joining us via Zoom. But nonetheless, good news. So Children's Health Defense, one of our best weapons, at least for them, is our court system. They've been having wins, and here's a recent win. You might not have heard about it, and this is about bad bills and legislation. Who knows how bills come into being or legislation? Anybody? So, good news. A huge win. A judge grants a preliminary injunction against AB 2098. Does anybody know what that was, AB 2098? This halts Governor Gavin Newsom, the Attorney General Rob Bonita, and the California Medical and Osteopathic Boards from forcing California's COVID-19 misinformation law. So doctors could not say anything. They were in fear of losing their license. This is halting an injunction. This is a big, big win. So congratulations for those with the good fight. Congratulations, Children's Health Defense California chapter. And I just happened to bring with me some of his great book. He's writing his book right now, and he's kind of past deadline, so he may or may not be able to join us on Sunday for just a bit. But this is a great book. We have some for sale. We have some signed, and we also have some unsigned. And we have some t-shirts. And another thing that we have as a resource, I've got PDFs of 3 magazines that we, WOW Learning Lab, used to publish, and it's called Inspired Parenting. So it's like, what about the kids? What about the kids, even before this happened? And I have this man to thank right here, Mickey Willis, who's a good friend of mine who I interviewed for this cover story, and I saw him on the stage in January on DC at home. And I said, that's my friend Mickey, what's he doing there on stage talking about the kids and crying? And I was just started that day because of my friend to wake up to what's going on with the kids. So I've been doing what I've been doing for many, many years, and we're going to get into that. But today, can I move back to a couple slides before?
Sure. So we're going to do that a different way, so you should just be able to roll with it.
I can just do this?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going back? Yep, okay. Okay, hi, there's me. And so it's about frequency-based education. And as I say, I've been doing this since the early 80s, not the early 80s, mid-80s. I'll tell you about it. But anyways, I spoke yesterday, and I'm speaking a few more times during the course of this wonderful Truth Tour. And I've done some interviews with some of our providers with WOW Learning Lab. We listened to Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan yesterday, who talked about luminous education. And you're going to see a common thread throughout all these people's talks, and it's about what's the frequency behind what you're doing. You can have the greatest curriculum in the world. You can have the most fabulous homeschool pod. You can have wonderful teachers. But what's behind their words? The kids know that. If it's not a match with what you're saying and your emotions and what you're feeling, they know it. And they'll tune out, especially the teens. So today we're going to hear from Beverly Raimondo, and she is a Children's Health Defense California Chapter Ambassador from San Diego, and she's going to be talking about how to make relationships with your school boards, how to go in. She used to go to the vaccine clinics when the parents were waiting in line to pick up their kids, and she'd be handing out flyers. So it's her own form of rally, her own form of activism. She does it very proudly and very boldly, and she gives practical steps on how to do that. So we'll be listening to her, fingers crossed, if we can get our videos to work. But before we go there, I'd like to have you see a little clip. Is anybody familiar with this movie? Oh. Oh. So I showed this, I live in Santa Monica, and every other Tuesday we have a meeting for Children's Health Defense California. Beautiful church, lets us use it, and I spoke about education, and we showed this entire movie.
Public education has gone off the rails.
Now it's about power and money and politics, and somehow the kids are getting lost in all of that.
It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're a mom and a dad first.
Critical race theory is dividing our children in ways that are unacceptable.
You cannot use racism to eradicate racism.
Our teachers are bullied. Parents are shut out.
Less than 1/3 of America's school children are proficient in anything.
They're teaching these kids X-rated sex acts. When we look at this radical agenda, the way our children are being exploited and the way parents are getting shut out, it comes down to one fundamental question. Whose children are they?
Whose children are they?
¿De quién son esos niños? Whose children are they?
This is much better than yesterday, though. We have to give ourselves, a big round of applause, because these guys' technology has been so wonderful. You're also supportive, and I can see why this Truth Tour is such a success, because it's the people behind it, and it's what's in their hearts. And someone else spoke yesterday. Bruce, I don't know if it was you or someone else on the tour, but they were saying, if you have two types of people that are standing for something at the front lines, whether they're soldiers, our military, those people that have it in their hearts, this burning feeling in their hearts, this true sense of honor for God and commitment to what you stand for and your morals, you're going to go to the last minute that you can possibly breathe before you stop. And then you might have someone else who's also very well trained and very committed, but it's not really, they're doing it because it's their job, or because whatever it is. I can't speak for that, but it's that difference of what is in your feeling tone. And we can talk about a feeling tone, and that's really what we're talking about with frequency-based education. It's the feeling tone of who is relaying the information. Oftentimes, dear, well-meaning parents could be living out maybe hurts that they have in themselves unknowingly to their children. So they can be loving, they can be kind, they can offer them the greatest living standards, and be very wonderful parents. But if there's unhealed hurts within them, that child is going to feel it. And guess what? That child's going to act out. Yeah. So really, oftentimes, and most often, it's really about parents. God bless them. So when you talk about parenting, And some say that children choose parents to be born into that family to teach certain lessons that maybe they've made an agreement about. Want to learn about anger, want to learn about patience. So I'm Judy Julin, and I wrote a book here, and I have some free copies if anybody wants them. I'll sign them. It's called Romancing the Future. I published it when I was launching Cosmic Kids in Hollywood, California. So I was launching a children's education enrichment center in Hollywood, California, at the Hollywood Highland Center on top of the American Idol finals in 2006. I had no idea about any of this. You know, I thought I just need to do this. It's about kindness, love, critical thinking, empowerment. I mean, it's everything that they really wouldn't want to come out. Certainly, Los Angeles Unified School District didn't want it to come out. We went to them, and Deb can attest to that. We went to them with curriculum, with training, with well-meaning, high-vibe providers. They weren't interested. And you know, I've been doing this since the late 80s. And in the late 80s, I launched a business called Kids at Heart. Fitness, nutrition, manners, and self-esteem. And they said, what do you mean nutrition and self-esteem in the 80s? You know, what do you mean about fitness? And it wasn't it was just like getting out and exercising with nature and learning about being kind to one another. And I had 3 locations. I was young, doing it all by myself. And I found that it was a tough road to hoe. I didn't want it to be education, because I knew if I called it education, it's going to have to be kind of along the lines of what they want and what they don't want. So what I did was, so that's written about in here. In here is my whole working life, launching a business in Hollywood, business principles. I raised a lot of money, and learning about walking your talk. So everything that I'm proposing for children with this new education system of frequency-based, I have to do in my daily life. You don't have to, but I want to, because that's the best marketing in the world. Because people will know that we are who we say we are, and we do our work, do our inner work to do what we're doing. So anyways, I have a couple of these, and I'm happy to sign them. And we also have some cards. They're a deck of cards for teens. It's called Inner Wisdom, and they're guaranteed to fight the blues and the blahs. So I've got some free of those, some card decks. You can just see Deb in the back. And we have also got some T-shirts for Children's Health Effect. So that's that. Let's see where we are. Can you take it from there? Okay, back. We're back again. So for Kids at Heart opened in the 80s. Then I moved to California. I landed at the Chopra Center for Wellbeing in 2003, not knowing anyone or what I was going to be doing, but I had left the children's business. I had it in my heart. I heard that Deepak wanted a children's program. I said, I can do that. I'll raise the monies. I'll infuse your thinking and other people's thinking, and I'll be thrilled to do it if they needed it in 3 months. And I was able to do that. I launched at the Chopra Center, and I went on because I had created it to build a business around it called Cosmic Kids. That's what I launched in Hollywood, California. And Deepak actually, did you see this slide before? Yeah. Oh, you made it nice and big. Okay, so this is Cosmic Kids, and we had a location in Tarzana and also Mumbai, India, for goodness sakes. So anyways, there's Mickey Willis and I and Deb on Inspired Parenting. One of our partners is Leon Campbell Jr. from Agape International Spiritual Center. You might know him. He's a dear friend of mine. And so Deepak then did a movie called 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and came out and filmed Cosmic Kids in Hollywood. It's in his movie. It's beautiful. I looked everywhere to find a clip of it. Can't find it anywhere. So 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Olivia Newton-John's in it. Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics, myself, Tina Mickelson, Phil's sister, and it's a great little movie. Then we published Inspired Parenting magazine, founded the educational nonprofit, went to Pula, Croatia with Mind Valley. If anybody knows about Mind Valley, it's a great personal development business. And then we now are partnered with Children's Health Defense California and put a teen program on for the teens that weren't allowed to have their own prom because they chose not to vaccinate.
Oh boy.
So we had a fantastic program in Santa Monica, started on the beach. They came as far as, I think there were some people from Bali came, Northern California, Southern California. Wow, put it on. We had a dance party for them. They had their own prom. We learned about food sovereignty. We learned about entrepreneurial skills. We put on a game about them being, in the White House and making their own rules and how to gavel, and it was wonderful. And you can go on Wild Learning Lab, and we have a video all about it. So it was great. So that's kind of bringing you up to date that I've been in this a long time. My sister said, Judy, why do you continue to do this? You've never had kids. I could have had children. My husband had a lot of kids, but I've not born them myself, which I could do too, but not now. So she said, why do you've never babysat. You have no educational background. Why do you do this? And I said, it's the very blood in my veins. It had chose me after my first spiritual awakening, which happened in the 80s, and it opened my heart and my mind to new ways of being. It was as though in the 80s, that curtain was pulled back a little bit for me. I saw that there was something. Of course, people didn't understand what went on with me, but I knew it was a blessing. And from then, I went on to align with my purpose and what I call Dharma, which is empowering children. And the best way that we can empower them these days, as we've talked about earlier, is helping them with their voice, matching them with their frequency. And I talk about frequency-based education. Oh, by the way, that's me in my blonde years. And that's Weston, who was a autistic, nonverbal boy. He, his mother wrote a book called Waiting for Weston, Parenting a Multidimensional Youth. So he never spoke. I used to wear his pants backwards and always go barefoot. And they actually ended up moving to the country because he just didn't do well, with the energies in the city. But anyways, he and I connected on a level. And this is a perfect example, I think, this photograph. It was taken in Tarzana, California. That it's about frequency-based education. And it's a holistic form of education, and it's based on three things: frequency sensing, frequency matching, and frequency honoring. Sensing. So slow down. We have a great training program called Resonant Learning Approach. It's like 6 weeks or so when we go through, it's for anybody. Parents, educators, community members, politicians, anybody. Because it's all the same thing. You see, as we open up the four walls of the schoolhouse, we're all learning, all together, all the time, all abilities. So these children, these blessed children that have oftentimes been admonished or drugged or kind of less than, what if they are brilliant? What if we just haven't figured out the right way to honor their abilities yet? And what if they're almost like the next evolution of us? And what can they teach us? That's why we propose not segmenting them away, but having them as a group in what we do. Frequency matching. So youth-led. Our goal, when we opened up Cosmic Kids in Hollywood, Jenny McCarthy, this is way back when, she happened to come to our open. She, with her son, she had trouble with, she was really against vaccines for a long time. Ethan, I think was his name. Evan. And so she came to our opening and she said, what if my children could learn their passion in life and how to do it in kindergarten? What kind of a world would we have? So that's kind of where we're headed. Is there a cookie cutter approach? Can I give you A, B, C, D? Here's the book on how to do it. No, it's very specialized. It's child-led. That's the most important thing. Passion-driven, and we work a lot with intentions. Of course, prayer. Intention, though, every day. What do we want to accomplish? Vision it. Think about it. How does it make you feel inside when you have that? So we are equipping our youth, equipping their educators, and equipping the community members, because we really believe it's a community collaborative, this next phase of education. Whether it's folk schools or homeschools, it doesn't matter what it is. It matters who the people are that are doing it, what is their commitment level, can we train them on how to regulate their emotions and be at the highest level possible. Because these kids are high. These kids are at the highest level, and we want to match them. So what we did with our, even way back with Cosmic Kids when I had my location in Tarzana, California, before the providers would even start the day with the kids, they would, we'd have a little kind of a meditation for them to do, a little visualization, because we wanted them to leave whatever traffic or something at home's going on, or they're having a dinner party and they don't know whatever it is, leave it out there, because when you're with these kids, we want you to keep your frequency as high as possible. So we gave them actual tools to do that every day, and they were required to do this before we started the day. So in 2006, there was a documentary came out called Indigo Evolution. Anybody hear of it? Neil Donald Walsh was behind it. They came, and this is before I launched Cosmic Kids, but they came and interviewed me about the kids today. And Indigo Evolution was about the supposed indigo color of children's auras, who were these specially gifted kids that they said were coming in, and they showed incredible artistic talents. The ability to see into the future, the ability to heal people. That's another thing we teach in our WOW workshops, is kids that want to be healers, or kids that want to learn about medicinal plants. We go out in nature and we do that too, so great stuff there. So that's a great, you can get this online. It's a great movie to watch. I think I was blonde in that era, in that movie, but it is here. This whole movie is about, this is back in 2006. What if we patterned our education about this? Okay, so we're going to cross our fingers and watch this next video. This is about a mom, an activist, Children's Health Defense Ambassador, San Diego. And she goes into the schools, goes into the vaccine clinics, hands out papers, and she's also a graphic designer. But let me see if I can, is there magic to do here? Hello again, this is Judy Julin. I'm so thrilled to be with a good friend, someone that I met through Children's Health Defense California chapter, and she's a true health freedom activist, warrior mom from San Diego, California, Beverly Raimondo. Hi, Bev.
Hi, Judy. So great to be talking with you today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for taking the time. I wanted to jump right into this because it's such, you've got so much information to share. You're really out there on the front lines. You are not only an incredible graphic designer, but you're so knowledgeable from a parent standpoint. What's going on in the schools, what we can do, how to make relations with your school board, the board of supervisors. You've actually done it. So, can you give us a little background on yourself? Background on yourself. Your daughter, beautiful daughter. No, not that one.
And being a woman, and just to be protecting the earth. So when I was a young girl, I was very involved with, I loved the nature. I loved anything that would protect nature. And when I saw different environmental issues that were coming in from more of an industrial, non-natural, I took notice to that, and I started to become an activist as a young girl. And if it was writing letters against, to corporations, I went out there and educated the public, or I wrote letters. So I was very much had that activism in me since I was young. And so then, as I progressed and got older, I was more and more aware of the other environmental issues that were coming into our world. And how I got connected with Children's Health Defense is because they were looking at this in a more holistic way, and looking at all the environmental issues that are creating immunity issues with our children and disease. So what happened was that in the 90s was uptake in autism, and that was very prominent, and it also correlated with the new vaccine schedule that children were getting, more and more vaccines. So I saw the correlation, and also, again, this came after the 1986 Act, which made vaccine manufacturers not liable for any vaccine injuries. So right there, I saw, okay, they're introducing their product, they're not liable, and our kids are getting sick. So it was a red flag for me. So that was 2015, when California, the first state to introduce bills that would mandate these vaccines to get into school. And SB 277 came about. And I, along with a lot of other mothers that were alarmed about this, got together, all different types of parents, different backgrounds. And that's what I loved about it, that we were all just fighting for the kids to make sure that they could that we as parents could have the choice for our children as far as what they put in their body, what medical procedure they would have, and that we would be able to have the rights of an education. Also, the issues that we've been working on is the bills that are being introduced, and the vaccines and the mandates with COVID, and how COVID has really pushed for a lot of these measures to take away our right. So as far as the bills, over the last year, I got involved for the first time with the bills in our state, which was in the Senate and the Assembly. And so what we did as parents is we tried to meet with our assembly person, learn who our assembly person is, and get involved with our community. And so we would meet, we tried to get town halls and to try to express our needs, because what we found is that most people don't know about these bills. They don't know what's happening, and they don't know how to get involved. They don't know that just a little bit of your time makes a big difference. So I saw just going to meet a person, making that relationship, they saw that we were out there and fighting for our rights. And so we are up against industry a lot of times. They're being lobbied by industry. So, but when they see that they're supposed to represent their constituents, rally some constituents together, they have to listen, and they see where we stand and what we need to have done. They don't know much. That's the other thing. They don't know where the people are landing, because they're not really involved with the public as much as you think, even though we're the ones who vote them in and we're the ones who pay for their salary. And so what happened is that they were trying to bring this year bills that were taking away parental rights and your privacy rights and just your basic human rights. So some of them we won, and that was SB 866, because that one was going to take away a parent's right to know a minor's medical issues at a certain age. I think it was up to 17. So you wouldn't know your child's medical issues. The school could hide it. The doctor could hide it. So we got rid of that, thank God. And then with a good coalition of people and different groups, such as the Freedom Angels we worked with, and with PERC Group. And these are other groups that you could look into that are about looking at bills and how to be on top of what's happening with them. So the other big issue that I was working on was also with the vaccine clinic. So as a mom, I was appalled, or shockingly appalled, knowing that when they introduced the COVID vaccine, that it was still EUA, emergency use authorization only, which by definition means experimental. No vaccines had ever come out that quickly and on such a broad scale. Most vaccines take 10 years to get to get the data that they need. They're safe and effective. These did not have any data, long-term data, human studies. Again, it doesn't have any liability, and it was being pushed out through the media that they were safe and effective. So when I heard that there was vaccine clinics popping up on school grounds that we pay for education, not for experimental medical procedures, I thought, how do we get in touch with these parents to inform them that these are not safe and that you shouldn't have to do a medical procedure to get into school and to have an education, especially one that's experimental. So basically what I did was rallied a lot of parents to try to get together and to go to these vaccine clinics, to be a thorn in their side so that they would see we're not going to stand for this. We were out there either with signs or we were passing information. We had information cards with 10 things that a parent really needs to know to empower themselves and to fight back. I was like, how do I find parents? I thought, okay, they drop kids off and they pick kids up. So I went, when it was drop off, I went up to every car that was waiting for the parents and dropped the flyer in their car. And whatever way I could get the information to start to grow, because it was not coming through the schools and it wasn't coming through the media. And parents really needed to know. The vaccine clinics did slowly go away a bit here in San Diego. That's the community that I work in, but they still are appointments on school grounds. And that's another, thing that we really have to work with to try to change, because this is just not something that we want on educational grounds. We do not want to create this medical world. That's separate, that's privately, that's for our own doctor that we choose, or however way we decide to heal our child. And so one of the things that I wanted to really express to you is when I was going to these high schools that had vaccine clinics, the teens, there's a lot of peer pressure, there's a lot of transition, there's a lot of, they're just going through that age of hormones, and there's a lot of influences and not knowing what to do. And when these vaccine clinics would come in and act like this is the right thing to do and you should do this, and it's very promoted by these big industries, pharmaceutical and hospitals, they kind of lost, they're being pushed to lose their innate empowerment. And so when I would talk to teens, and especially the boys, I saw this, and I would tell them, you know that you are strong, and you know that you are incredibly strong from inside, and that you do not need to hook up to anything externally. They would stand up straighter, but you would just see pride. It was just, it was everything they wanted to hear. It wasn't that you need to hook up to pharma. You don't have the ability, that you could be harmed, that you should live in fear. It was, I'm strong. And that's the age where they really needed it. So when you talk about your frequency education, that was a frequency. That was a energy that was given to them that I believe gives the empowerment that they need. And that's where I think is the most we can teach people, is to understand how to heal from within, how to tap into those frequencies, and frequencies that are of love, good, and empowerment, and just understanding and compassion, and that those vibrations and those positive vibrations is the way to create a healthy child, a healthy future, and a healthy world for everyone.
Beverly, that was so beautiful, so succinct. You're such a powerhouse mama bear, warrior mom. I love you, I admire you, and not only are you an incredible graphic designer, but you're knowledgeable, and you really boiled it down to, it's all about relationships. And even further down below that, it's all about the frequency behind a relationship, and how you come to meet with your board of supervisors, meet with your person that's doing the vaccine clinics, meet with your moms in the cars waiting to pick up their kids, meeting with those teens wanting to empower them at the school. I thank you so much for what you do and who you bring with you each day in your own frequency to your work, your home, and I've seen you with your daughter and with other moms in an activist situation. So if someone wanted to reach out, would you suggest that they go to Children's Health Defense California Chapter Resources page? Could you be in touch with them? Can I give them your email, or how might they learn more?
So, right, you could go to Children's Health Defense California Chapter, so that's ca.childrenshealthdefense.org, and we have some great resource pages that are really could help in so many ways with a lot of the mandates on the college level, on the elementary school level, on the high school level, employee work mandates, fighting those, and just a lot of resources. And that, I think, would be the best way. Of course, Children's Health Defense National also has such great news with CHD-TV to keep educated. But our state being kind of on the forefront of some of these laws they're trying to push through that are taking away our rights. California chapter, we're really on it, and we really, really want to help our state. So if you're here in California, really want to maybe think about donating to help with some of our lawsuits to fight these issues.
Yeah, and our greatest weapon against this medical tyranny, this health freedom, unlawful mandates and injustices is the court system. So we do want to showcase Children's Health Defense California Chapter. They're doing great work. You can donate. I have the QR code for the newsletter and for our social media, and you can go to that same website, ca.childrenshealthdefense.org, to donate to our legal team. Thank you, Beverly. You're a light in shining armor, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
So that's Beverly. Is that better? I'm learning. So, frequency again, matching with community partners. So the frequency that WOW embodies, the frequency that Children's Health Defense embodies, is a true match. And you talk about Children's Health Defense, we at WOW, it's about the emotional health. It's about the intellectual health. It's about the physical health, because when you take care of all those things, as Beverly talked about at the teens in the vaccine clinics, just them hearing, I am powerful, the I am words. And one little anecdote to this talk in the schools, yesterday I think it was, Lewis talked about strategies for when you go into the schools. So if plan A doesn't work, have a plan B, have a plan C, have a plan D, because you can bet that they're earmarked, those other people, to try to undermine your good work. So just know that you can have a strategy, and be in touch with me. If you, let's see here. I'll make this a big screen. So it's a little bit bigger, but if you go in that QR code in the top right, you can sign up for Children's Health Defense newsletter. It comes out every week. It's got really great information on so many things, and you can follow them also on Twitter and Instagram. They're all about the well-being of our children, and they're all about educating the public. They have lots of resources, which now the Truth Tour and Freedom in Action has, and we're here for you. So please be in touch with me anytime. And the bottom line that I'd like to leave you with is, what's new when it comes to the kids? We are redefining the way the world learns, plays, and works together. So remember, let's take it out of the four walls, not only the four walls of the classroom, let's take it out of the four walls of the businesses. Let's take it out of the four walls of the community, and it's all together, because we're all helping. And if we all take care of our frequencies, there's lots of ways we can educate our kids, but let's start with, the inner. And there's some ways you can get in touch. Text, California, call.
The following film shows the human energy field radiating outward from the body. It dynamically changes based on the physical conditions, the feeling states, the motivations of the person, in interaction with energy radiation from objects and living things. The existence of the human energy field, or the aura, was validated and studied by over 12 years of high-frequency recordings. This film shows the field not ordinarily seen, but now visible. Like all living things, this little dog has a sizable radiant field, even when he sits quietly. Notice now, as he greets his master, the obvious love and affection between them increases the dynamic radiation from their bodies, even the dog's tail and the man's head. No wonder so many people have pets who give them pleasure and provide a vital field of energy to interact with. Wherever there is motion in the universe, there is increased flow in the field that humans interact with. See the explosive activity from the waves and from his body. Also, the electromagnetic field of the body is negatively charged or ionized, as are waves or tumbling water, which further expands and heightens his field, giving a physical exuberance and emotional excitement. No wonder that a day at the beach is so exhilarating and vitalizing. We all love a babbling brook and the freshness of outdoor vegetation and mountains. Most of us believe that it is relaxation and beauty which refreshes us. From our research, we have discovered that living plants and rarefied atmosphere provide a richer field of negative ions, which heightens and replenishes our own energy field. Notice that the man's field becomes light in color and high in frequency. It sparkles and radiates some distance from his body. See that as the child moves into the mother's field, the affection between them changes the overall field to a pink color. Individuals' fields blend and enhance when there is a warm, caring relationship. These energy fields are the largest and the whitest that we have shown. She is oming. On the breath inhalation, the radiant field diminishes, and on exhalation, it expands and envelops the child. We have known for a long time that Gregorian chants, oming, humming, singing, and whistling create an energy which perks up emotions and brings an expanded consciousness.